The quality of a father can be seen in the goals, dreams, and aspirations he sets, not only for himself, but for his family. Welcome to the Athletic Dad Podcast. I'm your host, CT. Let's get into this thing. I had an awesome conversation earlier today with a friend of mine who works with my wife. I was over at her work, working with the kids, doing some programming over there, and I walked by a gentleman who said he'd heard some of the Athletic Dad podcast, and he enjoyed it, and he immediately was, I believe, motivated was the word he used. He said he was inspired. He got up early before work that next day and worked out. Said he was working out with a buddy, and they went so hard that he almost got sick. I said, well, that wasn't exactly what I was trying to say. But it was cool to see that he got some benefit from it. And what I think is so cool about that is I set out to provide information for people who are willing to listen, yes. But I ultimately am trying to build, my number one goal of this entire thing is to build a, let's call it, video diary for my daughter down the line to find and listen to and hear about what her dad was into and what he liked and what his parents were doing and what he did for work and all of these things. And number two was I wanted to share all the information that I've learned in 15 years of being in the strength and conditioning industry, especially with fathers, I believe have been totally overlooked in the fitness field, especially the ones who are pursuing athletic performance. So that's where I felt my expertise lied the best for the topics of this conversation. And then finally, I wanted to learn from some amazing fathers and some fathers with more experience than myself. But it's cool to get that positive feedback and inspire and motivate, but also have people reach out who I haven't heard from in a while, who I haven't talked to one-on-one in a while, who happen to come across this, and to hear from them and hear overwhelmingly positive statements about it has been so nice to hear. It helps me recognize that this is important, and having these, I guess, more monologues currently than conversations is important, and being honest is important, and sharing my experience is important. And we might look at this video wherever you're listening to it, Spotify, YouTube, and you might see there's 20 views, there's 25 listens, whatever that is. I don't even know what the number is. That doesn't matter. But it almost feels like everybody who's listened to this has said something positive to me, which has been a really great experience. I talk about all the time how I run off of caffeine and gratitude, and that's my fuel source. And I have just felt so much gratitude recently. Again, since becoming a father 6 months ago, but again, more recently within the last 4 months with the Athletic Dad Pursuit and now the podcast and the training program and the online training. I just am so appreciative for everybody who said things. And I want this to be an extremely positive place for people to go. It's obvious, right? Like I want my family to be able to hear this. I want my wife to be able to hear this. I obviously want my daughter to be able to hear this. I want my friends to be able to hear this. I also want people who are looking for motivation and inspiration and advice to hear this. So I want it to be a very positive place for people. And I also know through experience what it's like to live with hate and fuel yourself with spite and frustration. And I had, no lie, a 9-year span in my life that I had hatred for an individual. And maybe I'll get around to telling the full story on here. I've never told the full thing on podcast, but I've talked about it here and there because persistence comes up in conversations. Gratitude comes up in conversations. Chip on, the chip on your shoulder terminology comes up in conversations. And my brain is always directed back to this individual who led me down a path not only that made me an elite athlete, and it's what I needed at the time to get myself in the direction that I ultimately ended up in, and I needed that, but it wasn't a great fuel source. It wasn't a healthy fuel source. It did make me feel good at the end of the day. So I say all that to say, what's interesting about all the positive feedback is now I've heard a little bit of negative feedback. And it's so funny because, again, this whole thing is so my daughter can experience her dad when he was a dad before she was too old to know him as the dad she knows. And still you get people leaving some silly, funny, negative comments. Right? And I want to be able to talk to and support and help improve the lives of other fathers, because those are the people who I relate to the most and see myself in the most and aspire to be the most. And I want to be able to support that. And people still come with negativity. You've got an individual just sharing their subjective experience and stories from their life. And you have people who disagree. It's so silly. And I get social media's half of it is bots, right? People that don't have any profile picture or have tons of numbers after their name. But these comments that I got recently on one of my clips that got somewhat popular through social media. One of them was the clip, or the clip that I'm speaking of that got popular, was from the first episode of this podcast where I was describing my approach and my beliefs on what the athletic dad means to me, right? And what I'm trying to get across on this podcast. And the positive thing was it reached a lot of people, but now it seems as though it's gotten kind of out of our ecosystem of gratitude and positivity and love. And it's gotten into hands of people who don't agree with what we're saying. So, I don't want this to be a place of hate and disrespect, but I had mentioned to my friend this morning, who mentioned that he supported the show. Shout out John if he's listening to this one. I said, I only record when I'm inspired. Right? I don't have any of this stuff scripted. I have an idea of what I want to talk about and what I want to expand on, and then I hit record and talk. And so I need some inspiration for that. And after I read some of these comments, I was given enough inspiration to want to go through these and talk about it. If anything, to just clear up some things, right? Because they bring up questions, and I want to be able to answer the questions. And I think it's helpful if maybe somebody listening might think, oh, what does he think about this? This would be a good opportunity to share that. So if you haven't seen the clip that I'm talking about, go back. It'll be pinned on my Instagram profile. But I'm just talking about, again, what I believe to be an athletic dad. And this person says, how about the 17-minute 5K dad? You have to train like that. Your post is trash. Okay, 17-minute 5K. First of all, what I really appreciate about this post is this gentleman put his foot down. He put a line in the sand. He chose a side. For him, it's not if and or. He said it's this. And I so much appreciate that, because I think that's important. Can't be wishy-washy about everything. You've got to make your decision. This is what I believe in, and not this is what I believe in, like this is what I'm going to say to my buddies. This is what I'm going to say to my friends. This is what I believe in. Like, every action that I have throughout the day represents this belief. So this guy believes wholeheartedly in this, and I appreciate that. And I think even in his bio it says run every day, right, or something like that. So I love that. He's passionate about it. Take a stand. Stand for something. Right? The saying, stand for something or fall for anything. And we have to do that. And we have to do that more. What are your family standards? You have to have those. It is not maybe. It is not a blurred line. It is this. This is how we live our life. We have it in the gym. When you come in to our facility and you're a coach, you coach your ass off. That's it. No excuses, line in the sand. You coach as hard as you possibly can. And your goal is to make the 1 hour that you're with this group or these individuals, or the 90 minutes or the 30 minutes that you're with these people, your job is to make that the best hour, 30 minutes, or 90 minutes of their day. That is your job as a coach at our facility. So nothing else matters. Take a stand. Stand for something. Believe in that. Believe that you as a coach can change this individual's life. Be willing to fight for that. That's what belief is. And you have to have that. And I so much appreciate that this gentleman has belief in the 5K. I gave a shout out to 5K dads. I said I know there are people who run better 5Ks than me. But the point was, if put in a situation where they've got to lift something heavy off the ground, I would take the athletic dad over the 5K dad. Then we've got to break down a little bit what qualities I'm even talking about when I say athletic dad. Short form, you got to make very general. This is long form, so let's get specific. So what I'm talking about when I talk about athletic dad, it's a dad who's able to express the qualities of speed, power, strength, aerobic capability, anaerobic capability, the ability to learn skills fast. These are athletic qualities. When you see the best athletes in the world, these are the qualities that they're expressing. They can produce a ton of force from the ground. Wow, they are fast. Wow, they can jump high. They're strong. Wow. They can pick this guy up and move him all the way across the field. They express speed incredibly fast. We talked about it. Speed is to me, the number one pillar of athletic ability. The ability to produce so much force with your body that you move at over 20 miles an hour. It's an insane thing to think about. That is the culmination of all of the qualities of athleticism combined into one expression. That's why individuals who are fast are so impressive and so athletic. So my friend here is saying, how about the 17-minute 5K dad? Okay, what are the athletic qualities that we're expressing? VO2 max, aerobic qualities, aerobic capabilities. What else is there? Look at weightlifting. To bring a heavy barbell, oftentimes more than 2 times your body weight, from the ground up to your shoulders, that you catch in deep flexion over the ankles, knees, and hips, front squat with it, pick it up, and then put it over your head and jump down underneath it as fast as you possibly can to get in a split stance to stabilize the external body of mass over your head. What? That's incredibly athletic. You show up to a 5K and somebody waves a flag and you're in good enough condition to not walk over 5 kilometers. What are we showing? 17 minutes is fast for a 5K compared to people who are not fast. But when people are talking about speed, generally, as an athletic quality, generally they're talking about sprint speed, 10 yards to 100 yards. I would argue up to 400 meters. That's why it's so interesting. Your post is trash. I don't understand. I just don't understand the argument for it, especially if I'm the one who's coming up with the description of the athletic dad. And again, I don't know. Maybe by the time this is out, he has responded to this and given me his thoughts. But I'm looking for the expression of athletic qualities. Vertical jump. I mean, what? I don't see any of that there. It's great. But thank you for the comment. So here's the next one. Coming from someone who is athletic, fit, ripped, lean, and all of the above. Okay, fit, ripped, lean, all of the above. Synonyms. So athletic and fit. This take is bad. Okay, so I said athletic is important. He said he's athletic, and he's saying this take is bad. Okay, I'm confused. Easier to just say, this is your opinion. Okay. I'm recording myself talking to a camera. Isn't that? It's understood that that's my opinion, I believe. He said, but calorie deficit, brain firing off, temperament, what does any of that have to do with it? Here's the point. Does anybody know? He must not. But if anybody knows, anybody who has competed at bodybuilding at a very high level, I'm talking elite of the elite, like buddies with pro cards. If you spend any time with these people, when they get sub 5% body fat and they are counting every single gram of protein, fat, and carbohydrate that goes into their body down to the most nuanced measurements, these people are irritable. They are physically cold. They are visibly uncomfortable. But that's the point. It's intentional suffering because they are competing in a sport that intentional suffering is necessary. So when that becomes the priority, there's no way you can show up as a father as well as you would when you're well-fed, well-slept, healthy, strong. Bodybuilders are the weakest physically for the few minutes they're on stage. Completely calorie depleted, completely drained of water. I mean, barely surviving. And that's what's so impressive about it. That's what I'm talking about when I'm saying Lean dad, 2 or 3% body fat, your brain is not going to function the way that it should. I don't even know how you could argue with that. That's what makes me laugh about this stuff. And again, like I talked about earlier about like trolls, right? These actually people have names, they have profile pictures, they have stories, right? So like these are real human beings that again are out of kind of the ecosystem and are in a place where they now can, I don't know, spend their entire day trolling social media, right? And then here's the best part of this comment. I could argue dads believing they're still athletic makes them a bad dad. Okay, here's the truth. If dads got the opportunity to play their sport at the highest professional level possible, they do not want their kids pursuing that same path. And that is the truth. And you think, okay, Deion Sanders, Shedeur Sanders. No, here's the thing. Being top 1% of the 1% of athlete on the planet is incredibly hard. It's early mornings, late nights. It's not seeing your friends and family. It's dedicating your entire life for one specific goal. It's saying no to a lot of things. It's physically, mentally, emotionally, incredibly demanding. Every single day that these individuals wake up, there are millions of people who want to take their job. What kind of anxiety comes along with that? Every minute of every day, these athletes are afraid of losing their job and never getting the opportunity to play these sports again. One injury ends it all. Everything they've put 30 years of life into. If they're lucky, they're playing professional sports at 30. But a lot of times it happens sooner than that. And then they're scared to get cut. They're scared to get hurt. They're scared to underperform. If one of those things happen, somebody takes their job and they don't get an opportunity back in professional sports, they've got to then find a new identity. Everything that they've learned and everything that they've done and all of the positive things that people have said to these people over their entire lives revolved around sports. Everything. And once you lose that, you wouldn't wish that upon your worst enemy going through that. Mentally, what happens to an individual going through that? And the fact that an individual is trying to say dads who are still athletic are bad dads because they're attempting to live athletic life through their kids. Like, they don't want that for their kids. They don't want it for their worst enemy. When we were blessed to get the news that we were going to have a baby, so many people said to me, do you want it to be a boy? Do you want him to play football? I said, 1, I believe we're going to have a girl. And 2, I would never push sports on either of them, boy or girl, especially my son, especially if I had a son, because I know what I went through as a middle school, in a high school, in a college, in a professional athlete for 10 years. And I don't want to put that on one of the individuals that I love the most. I want them to pursue other things. If they are into sports, is it something we're going to support? 100%. But because I've been there and I've seen it and I've done it and I've dealt with the issues, and I'm 38 years old in therapy talking about things that I learned as a middle school and a high school athlete. And these things are still having an effect on me. Everything's got to be perfect all the time, Early, give it 110%. You can always do more. Team above self, right? Accountability, responsibility. All of these things I learned through sports and made me the person that I am. There's the dark side of it that sometimes doesn't outweigh the positive. And I wouldn't change anything, ever. The point I'm trying to make is dads who have been to the highest level know what it takes, and they would not put that on the individuals that they love. In working in performance the last 15 years, it's never been dads with incredible genetics, the dads who are still athletic, the dads who are still fit, who are pushing their kids hard in sports and training, and who are putting pressure on these kids young to succeed. Trust me, it is not the athletic ones. It is not the capable ones. It's the ones who never had it and want what's better for their kids, which is the goal, to provide more for them than we had, right? And then you stack that generation on generation on generation. But all we have control over is these short amount of years, and we've got to do the best we possibly can to pass on to our kids the ability to live a better life than we did and the option to live a better life than we did. And that's the goal. Dads who played professional sports don't want their kids playing professional sports because they know what it takes. So again, bad take. 2 more comments to go through. One gentleman commented on 8 to 9% body fat. That's an aggressive statement. When 3 posts before I had put a picture of my in-body scans all the way back from 2023. And I went from, the highest I had was 8.9, the lowest was 6.2. So I was a bit off on this. So attention to detail. And then the last one, he's quoting, so saying this is what I'm saying. Quote, "My way is the only right way to exercise. You're wrong if you enjoy a different type of exercise than me. How will you even throw a ball if an emergency happens?" Quote. Okay, this is good. That's good, dude. The last line is awesome. How would you ever throw a ball? Oh my gosh. If an emergency happens, what I'm talking about is like, don't you want to be able to throw the baseball with your son before a baseball game? Chuck the ball as high as you can in the air. Let him run underneath it. Catch it, throw it back to you. Don't you want to do that for a while? Don't you want to toss the softball up as high as you possibly can in the air and let your daughter run underneath it? And then catch it and then throw it to you like she's throwing to first base? Don't you want to be able to do that 3, 4, 5 days in a row? That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about how will you even throw a ball if there's an emergency, which is hilarious. But again, at no point did I say this is the only way. I'm describing what I believe constitutes an athletic dad. And this is from 15 years of working in performance, where what matters is the ability to express athletic qualities. It's the only thing that matters. So of course I'm biased to it and I think it's the best, but I'm describing what I believe is athletic. I never said I have any issue with anything else. Again, I think there are things that are less optimal and more optimal, but I don't have to talk about that. I'd say Google search, but you can find out information and statistics about different ways of training. I've always said I don't agree with everything Orange Theory does, what boot camps do, F45, Burn Boot Camp, those other ones. I don't agree with everything CrossFit does. But if this style of training gets somebody training who would never in any other scenario exercise, then I think it's absolutely incredible that these exist. That's where I stand. And I've always believed that. Believed it to the point that these are the things I do because I'm willing to try out those training methodologies. If I didn't believe that, somebody would say, hey, come to CrossFit. My sister would invite me to Orange Theory. Somebody would invite me to a HIIT workout, and I would say, no, that's a bad training. What do you mean? Any training, anything that gets people moving is great. We need that bad. We need that now more than ever. It's great. So I never said anything about any other person's type of training being bad. I just know what I've seen in my experience of working with over 1,000 clients, both one-on-one and in a group setting, what people tend to respond to the most and what they say about how they feel and how they're more capable, and that they're able to continue to participate in their hobbies without pain. Isn't that it? Isn't that why you train? You train to be able to participate in your hobbies pain-free for as long as you possibly can. That's why you train. So whatever that is for you, whatever allows you to do that is the thing that's going to work. So do I believe a well-rounded athletic style training program would be amazing for everybody? Yes, because I've done it with everybody from 6 to 83. But do I also believe there are other training modalities out there that are beneficial? Heck yeah. If all you need is one kettlebell, and that kettlebell sitting in your garage gets you to get out there and train for 20 to 30 minutes a day, 4 to 6 times a week, and make better decisions when you go out to eat, and make better decisions when it's based around what you're watching on TV, and make better decisions when it comes down to your sleep habits, and make better decisions in your relationships, and make better decisions in how you show up at your business, and then make better decisions to how you show up as a father to your kids and a husband to your significant other, then train with a kettlebell. That's the point. And why I like responding to these is because things that individuals tend to pull out of when it comes to this short form style content is it's very surface level. You said this, I believe in this. No, what about this? I know one guy who does this. You're wrong. It's very surface level. So you've got to take the opportunity to expand on your thoughts when you have the opportunity to. And I think that's something that's super important, especially in this industry when, and again, when you can train with kettlebells, you can train CrossFit, you can train like an athlete, you can train as an Olympic weightlifter, you can train as a bodybuilder. And they're all right. What are you supposed to do as an individual when you have 1,000 different options? How are you supposed to figure out what's best for you, right? Not everybody has been blessed with opportunities like myself where I've gotten to try a lot of them because I played sports and because I'm in the industry. So I have a better idea of what's beneficial for what type of people, when ultimately really the biggest thing is whatever you're going to be the most consistent and intentional, and that's going to be the best training program for you. So it doesn't matter what it is. But if I don't have any knowledge in the field, I could just show up and get a trainer somewhere and not have any idea if they're helpful or hurting me or being truthful or lying or just trying to sell me. But if you could go and hear them explain the philosophies and the things behind the reasons why they train, then you can get a better idea and you can understand if that person's for you. That's all I'm trying to do. And I tell everybody when they come in, especially our adults, I say, we train like athletes. Geez, what does that mean? We jump and throw and crawl and slam and do compound movements and push those compound movements to heavy sets of 5s, 3s, 1s. And most of the time, people get into it and say, after just weeks, 3 weeks, I've never felt better. I jumped onto a 24-inch box. When I first started, I didn't even think I could get up to 6-inch box. I feel stronger than ever. Hey, my back doesn't hurt when I'm mowing my lawn. My knees hurt for years. Now I got into training this way, and I can play pickup basketball at 73 years old. These are literally quotes that people tell me, and I'm thinking of these individuals as I'm telling you what they said. I mean, we hear this stuff every day. What goes around the CrossFit gyms? Man, I'm wrecked from Fran. I had to work in a whole mobility day because I was so beat up from the WOD. Orange Theory, burn boot camp. Knees hurt, ankles hurt. I got to take some time off. You think it's the pounding on the treadmill? Do you think it's the random programming style? We just don't hear that because it's smart. And we've done it for a long time. So I appreciate all the love. And I appreciate the individuals who take some of their discretionary time to write their thoughts in the comments on social media, because it gives me an opportunity to expand on my thoughts, because I do believe I need to be challenged. If you think I'm wrong, then please challenge me. I better be able to give you the exact reason why I believe certain things. I better be able to when it comes to strength training and performance training. I wanted to get into some programming ideas, but my inspiration took me in that direction. So we're going to stop now. But I have to say again, before I get off the podcast, thank you, everybody who's reached out, who said anything to me, who said it in passing, who sent me a text, who called me, who comments, who DMs me. I am so grateful for all of you to spend time listening to what I have to say, and the continued support. And the more texts I get and the more questions about certain things, the more I understand that we're going in the right direction. So thank you for all that. Remember these few things before I catch you all in the next one. Continue to practice gratitude. Tell the people that you love them, and you live your life stimulated. You only got one of them. Thank you all for listening.